popcorn time. We had to really fucking earn it. We had to seeders and leechers and do all of this sophisticated shit, pick who you're downloading from, go from this computer to that computer for USB to all these other cables you had to get, Firewire, just to move a big data file for one movie so you could like show the family that you like had this shit figured out. Check it out, we're watching Harry Potter or what, I don't know even remember what it was back then. But like you had to earn that shit. Nowadays you just download an app and you got it all.
I think that that's kind of where we are in Bitcoin too, right? Like maybe not as bad as dial-up modem, but it's kind of similar. Like
no, it's pretty bad.
I started
way to bring it back.
in 2003, and my dad got me my first computer, and I was really excited about it. And I didn't have my cell phone until my second year of college, so we were laggards. But he gave me like a floppy drive, and it's like, hey, you can put papers in this and go and print it off in the library. And I never used it because I was like, I'm going to burn it to a CD or send an email. And it's just so funny to think about now that like I was at the time kind of pretentious and didn't want to use a floppy disk, but was totally happy to burn a CD or a rewritable DVD. And I like thought it was so cool. And now, of course, that's like probably horrifying, especially if you're an environmentalist or something like that. And it's just a totally different world. So I think we're somewhere around maybe like 95, 98, maybe 2000 in terms of technology for Bitcoin, which is really exciting.
Yep, that's well said. Because I remember the same shit. And by the way to bring it back to Bitcoin, you're right, because that's exactly where we are, maybe. But we had the floppy disks, 4.7 megabytes, and then 700 megabytes was CD-ROMs. DVDs at like 4 gigabytes, and then they had the HD DVD versus the Blu-ray wars, and you had to pick a side and invest all this money in to get all your movies. And it was a fucking pain in the ass.
Well, we can Bitcoin happy hour, so fuck it. Like the thing that I don't understand is like so many people get focused in on the like the monetary economic aspects of Bitcoin, but nobody's talking about the relationship between Bitcoin miners and the oil and gas companies. Like that should be what really like gets a lot of these guys like Cantro, or I see Mike down in the audience, like that should be what gets these guys interested. Like the fact that like Chevron, ConocoPhillips, and Exxon are utilizing just the Bitcoin mining process in order to improve their production capacity and reducing their emissions. Like that should be what everybody's focused on. Like I don't give a fuck if you like it for like an investment or a monetary vehicle, but you got to admit like that's a really, really cool aspect of it. And nobody talks about it. I don't know if it's because nobody knows about it or what, but it blows my mind.
There's that. I went to a wedding and the preacher told this story. You fill a jar with rocks and you ask somebody if it's full, and they say yeah, and then you fill it with pebbles. Is it full? Yeah, and then you do sand, and then finally he fills it with water, and now it's finally full. Like that's Bitcoin is the water in that metaphor for energy. It just fills in all the gaps and the edges, all the least loved energy, all the flares, all the cheap shit, and that process is only kind of just starting. You're only just now starting to see it because people can sometimes afford to run it with, residential or commercial or industrial power, or some only semi-subsidized, or all these different ways. But increasingly, these machines can and will and do make their way towards the least loved, most wasted power all around the world. It's just if you have a global money, global energy system that seeks out the cheapest energy and the least loved energy to power the global money, that's a pretty fucking cool thing.
Well, it just improves efficiencies. But like the other thing too, though, with this is that like 95% of these people are under pseudonyms, so you can't really trust everything that they say. But we've had multiple like grid engineers and operators come up into these conversations and say that they enjoy the Bitcoin miners because it helps them like level out their base load demand. It's just like I don't know. Like I'm to the point now where like you guys know me. I'm not interested in arguing or fighting with these people, but like it's just there's a lot of efficiencies and improvements that is like being enabled because of the entire Bitcoin picture, and everybody's ignoring it just because they want to think it's a tulip bubble. Like it's a fascinating social study, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's wild because, it makes some pretty easy promises. You get rid of intermediaries, free up the money to move faster, freer and better for everybody. Costs you a little bit of energy to do it, But if you just ask people, like, how much energy do you think, of your consumption, your power outlets, your cars, your planes, your work, the plastic in your pocket, the meals, all of your consumption, how much do you think is, what percentage of that is spent on money? It's not zero, right? So somehow, somewhere, energy is being used for money, but you can either be thoughtless or thoughtful.
40% of the energy produced by an internal combustion engine is wasted due to heat, and people want to get pissed off because Bitcoin miners are using energy on the grid. It's like we can redirect our focus into maybe finding using nuclear energy to produce more cheap energy to produce a better internal combustion engine, so we're not wasting all of this gasoline.
Yeah, I thought the number was even higher for the internal combustion engine, like 60% wasted in cars.
It could be. It could be.
Yeah, but you're exactly right. All these things have these costs. People, like everybody that talks about hydrogen, I usually just say, hey, listen, what I understand about when you do electrolysis for hydrogen is that, it costs you 50% of the energy that you had put in. You start with a kilowatt of electricity and you get a half a kilowatt worth of hydrogen that you can then try to capture after that electrolysis process, spending more energy, putting it into a container and then, combusting it or powering it through a battery, whatever the hell it is. And having inefficiencies and haircuts as well. Like these things have real costs and complexities that, in case of hydrogen, it's like not that great an idea for most use cases, or for a lot of the ones I see them talking about, how it's such a, green hydrogen miracle and all these news articles that are trying to hound me with it.
I had a phone call with a friend that's a project manager for a company that both will not be named. But he's working on I think it was a 200 megawatt nuclear project it was either Pennsylvania or Texas. Those were the two areas we were talking about. But this nuclear reactor is like using Bitcoin mining because it just gives them like the immediate demand load response, so they could just maximize the energy output.
Yes.
Nuclear reactors, you can't really just up and down like a peaker plant.
Yeah, these are complex systems. There are pipes and flows and speeds and feeds and heating rates and amounts and contained energies that have to be moved around and dispelled and moved from, gases, liquids, and solids through little bits of batteries, but mostly through pipes and through, all sorts of complex systems that need immediate responsiveness for these things that benefit when they have tools that can up and down and accommodate. These are not just magic dials that they turn up somewhere in a nuclear plant and then this big circle starts spewing out a constant perfect amount of power.